Fair. We get things kicked off this morning. We've got a full slate of candidate interviews on tap for you today, but we get things kicked off with DeKeither Stamps. He's a candidate for Public Service Commissioner in the Central District as a Democrat. DeKeither, good to see you, sir. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, sir. So you're presently serving in the Mississippi House of Representatives.
Yes, sir.
Correct? You
Yes, sir.
served there over the last 4-year term, and you've decided to run for Public Service Commissioner. I believe you did that as well in 2019. You ran for Public Service Commissioner. Came up a little short by about 2,000 votes. Isn't that right?
A hair short.
Yeah.
49.6%.
Okay, so you got that etched in your memory, don't you? All right, so you've decided to throw your hat in the ring again, taking on incumbent Brent Bailey, Republican, running for Public Service Commissioner. What motivated you, DeKeither, to jump back in the race?
Well, I just want to take the experience that we've gotten in the legislature and in government and move it forward. Because when the utilities started failing, that started making me go back and say, well, maybe I should try it again. Because prior to the utilities failing, I was trying to do everything I could do to make them successful. But now we got water failing, electrical systems failing, Wi-Fi failing. So I don't believe that failure should have a second chance.
So what can the Public Service Commissioner, what action can they take, what authority do they have to enable change as far as these failures are concerned?
Well, the Public Service Commission regulates water, sewer, electrical, telecommunications, and natural gas services around the state. And proper regulation with proper policies can move us in the right direction. So I want to take my experience while serving on the Public Utilities Committee in the House and my experience on the City Council, managing a struggling utility. I know all about the struggles of dealing with aging infrastructure and customers who can't pay or won't pay. So I can bring experience from actually regulating a utility and work with our utility providers across the state to provide better utilities for everyone. So
certainly in focus over the last year has been the water situation in our capital city, the city of Jackson. And honestly, I think most citizens out there just see a lot of finger pointing, pointing fingers at others for being responsible for those failures. But in the meantime, the citizens of the city of Jackson do not have reliable, potable water. What do we do?
Well, it's not just Jackson.
You know, I agree. I understand. But that's got national attention, though.
The Jackson utility services many people all across central Mississippi.
Yeah, you're right.
And so that's why we're moving forward again.
Okay.
Because we campaigned 4 years ago on taking over the city of Jackson and the water system, and those things weren't done. And so we're going to move forward to aggressively take over the whole system, because for the federal government to take it over, that's a failure at the city level and the state level. We don't need Joe Biden or Donald Trump, anybody running our utilities. We can do this locally, and I'm going to lead the change to do that.
How would you handle the office differently than the present office holder, Commissioner Brent Bailey? What would you do different?
Well, we'd be more aggressive. We won't be timid when it comes to handling any utility, whether it be Jackson or any other utility around the state. And from what we're seeing already, utility providers are leaning forward and saying, hold on, let me make sure I sharpen my pencil, because my record on the city council in Jackson and in the legislature is I'm going to read everything. I'm going to know as much about your material as you know it. So I'm going to use my discernment to see who's lying and who's not telling the truth when it comes time to brief us on things. And I'm going to use my courage to stand up and hold them accountable and let them know to their face that they're wrong and when they're right. So we're going to continue to use the same experience we've had over our whole career to move our whole utility forward.
So do you believe, DeKeither, that your experience serving in the Mississippi House of Representatives would be valuable in serving as Public Service Commissioner?
Most definitely, because it's relationships. Even though I'm a Democrat, for me, when the Republicans are right, I stand with Republicans. When the Democrats are right, I stand with them. But when they're both wrong, I keep standing for the ratepayers and Mississippians.
I see. So you also, tell us about your background. You have experience as a veteran, right? A combat veteran.
I retired from the military. I joined the Marine Corps when I was 18 years old. And when I came back to Mississippi in 2010, the Mississippi that I had in my heart all those years wasn't necessarily the Mississippi I saw with my eyes. So I decided to step forward and do something about it.
So tell us about your district that you presently represent in the House. What does that encompass?
District 66 covers Byram, Terry, Utica, Learned, Raymond, and a portion of South Jackson. And I serve on the Public Utilities Committee, municipalities, military affairs, agriculture committee, constitution, and investigating state agencies.
Are there any legislative priorities that you would put forward to the legislature should you be elected as public service commissioner? Anything you think that we ought to enact into law? Any laws that need to be amended or new laws passed?
We're going to build on what we passed. We passed a piece of legislation that gave the Public Service Commission more purview into the city of Jackson when we first got elected.
Yeah.
We were hoping that that would lead to taking over the system. And that didn't happen. And then we also fully funded their office, and we voted for a raise for the Public Service Commission because I really wanted them to be successful.
Yeah.
But when the failure started to mount up, then I said, well, we need to go take this over.
Have you talked to the mayor and city leadership about your candidacy to see where they stand? Because this is front and center, just a top problem, high priority problem for the city of Jackson. And as you said, the system serves some of the surrounding communities as well. Have you talked to them about it? Where do they stand?
Well, they know me through and through.
I proposed, right?
I proposed
as a Jackson city council.
Right. I proposed in 2014 to put a situation in place where the city of Jackson would have a city manager, which would basically take over the whole city. And that was 2 mayors ago.
And this would be in lieu of the present mayor-councilman government structure?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. So I proposed things that are game-changer and dramatic for the city of Jackson for a long time.
How was that received?
Oh, well, it was received well by some and was totally rejected by others. But now I'm a firm believer that time will either promote you or expose you.
Okay.
And time has promoted us and exposed us to be right when it comes to Siemens, when it comes to changing the government structure, when it comes to corruption, and when it comes to failures inside our utilities. And we want to continue to build on our record and move it forward.
I'm sure you're familiar with the procurement policies of the city of Jackson. I certainly am as a longtime vendor to the city. And you're aware that they have a minority business enterprise participation requirement, generally speaking, in their contracts. Do you think that that's good policy, or do you think that that may be holding the city back, that it might not result in selecting the best value for the taxpayers of city in contracting?
Well, I took a lot of heat in 2013 when we ran for office because that's when the people who were getting the Siemens contract were at the table. And you can imagine being a candidate for city council and you're telling folks that, no, you can't make this $90 million because this $90 million is not good, no matter how, and I think $47 million of that was proposed to be the minority vendors.
Right.
And so I took a lot of heat from standing in the way of minority vendors getting $47 million.
Right.
But everyone knows now that I was right. So for me, I don't look at it as an across-the-board issue. I look at it with proper execution. Those policies can be effective. But with ineffective execution and ineffective governance and oversight, then you get greed, you get fraud, you get waste, you get abuse. And so for me, it depends on what the deal is, what it looks like, and how it's executed.
I got you. So it may be something that you would visit with the legislature about because the legislature does have some power there where they could prohibit municipalities from engaging in those sorts of procurement practices.
Well, what I do is I'll take a look at it on a case-by-case basis. We have cases where you've had people on both sides do nefarious things. Yeah. And so what I want to do is look for what's right.
Okay.
If it's a good deal, we move forward.
We got about a minute and a half left. How's the campaign been going?
It's going well. It's going well, and people are hearing our message, and we fundamentally believe that failure shouldn't get second chances. And every elected official must understand that you are what you deliver back to the people. Not about you being a nice guy.
Is that resonating with the voters?
Because people are receiving failure, and we believe that failure shouldn't get second chances.
Interesting. Have you spoken yet? You scheduled to speak?
I spoke this morning.
Okay, yeah. All right, so you feel good about the race?
I'm ready to go. So we're asking the voters to come on out in the primary and in November to come bring DeKeither Stamps to the Mississippi Public Service Commission.
Are you the only Democrat in the Democrat primary for Central District PSC?
Yes, sir.
Right? Okay. So then looks like you're going to advance to the general election, likely take on the incumbent Republican Brent Bailey. Well, appreciate you coming on, DeKeither. Always good to talk to you, sir, and good luck to you in the campaign. And we'll see where this all shakes out here in a few months.
It's going to be a ball, Mississippi.
Yes, sir. We are stepping aside for a break right here on Middays. Once again, we're at the Neshoba County Fair. When we return, it's Brent Bailey, the Public Service Commissioner of the Central District.